This alien-looking crab saved my life. I am a type 1 diabetic. I rely heavily on horseshoe crab blood. They're honestly marvels of modern medicine, and if you've ever been to a hospital, then a horseshoe crab has probably helped you too. To return the life-saving favor, I traveled 1,000 kilometers from Toronto to the Delaware Bay on the first full moon of summer so I could go out at midnight to help save some horseshoe crabs. Oh no, I've got one who slipped over. Gotta help him. And while we were here, it happened to be during one of the world's largest animal mating sessions. This is technically one of the largest orgies in the world. You do you, little guys. Hi, I'm Danielle Dufault, and you're watching Animalogic. Today, we're on location in Delaware Bay to witness the spawning of a total crab impersonator, the Atlantic horseshoe crab, or Limulus polyphemus. We're on the south side shore of Delaware Bay, just about 2 hours away from Philadelphia. These unassuming beachfront communities are perfect summer homes for humans and horseshoe crabs alike. There are 4 species of horseshoe crab. 3 of them are found in Asia in the Indian Ocean and Western Pacific, and one of them, the Atlantic horseshoe crab, lives on the North American East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. The oldest horseshoe crab relative that we have in the fossil record bears the beautiful moniker of Lunataspis aurora, and it dates all the way back to the Devonian. This was before creatures evolved out of the water and up onto land, and yet somehow these creatures have survived and evolved all the way to today. Right now, there are around 30 million horseshoe crabs in the bay. Most of them have migrated from nearby estuaries. They come here every year to mate in one of the largest mating rituals in the world. The beaches of the Delaware Bay are mostly shallow and protected from large waves. They also warm up earlier in the year than other nearby beaches. This combination makes them the perfect location for horseshoe crabs to mate and spawn. You might not be able to see it right now, but out in these waters, there are millions of horseshoe crabs. And tonight, there'll be hundreds of thousands of them lining this beach. These here, of course, are Atlantic horseshoe crabs, and the males are here to go for the ride of their lives. With each passing minute, more and more horseshoe crabs are climbing up onto the beach here, but they're just gonna hang out in the surf until tonight, when the ladies show up to the party. The male's first pair of legs are specifically adapted with little hooks, so when it's time to mate, they'll grab onto the female's shell and fertilize the eggs as females lay them. So the males will line the beaches and form sort of a barrier, waiting for the females to show up and release her pheromones. These pheromones drive these males into a mating frenzy. Now they're all just playing the waiting game. Females are generally bigger than the males and can be twice as heavy. They're also much stronger, so you can sometimes see a female dragging a chain of males who are all waiting for her to lay her eggs to fertilize them. Oh my gosh, I think I see a female, finally. So any individual that looks bigger than 7 inches across is probably a female. And this right here is a big mala. And this male here seems to be the lucky guy who managed to grab on. Ooh, another one! The females are here! Oh, the males are gonna be excited now. Alright, this is an example of a stage 3 clinger. The male's holding on with his first pair of legs, and she's just dragging him up onto the beach where he can fertilize her eggs. It looks like this female found just the perfect spot to lay her eggs. They're actually extremely choosy on where they lay their eggs because the sand needs to be lubricated enough for her to be able to make it back into the water, but it also needs to be well drained enough for the eggs to properly develop. A single female can lay over 50,000 eggs, so there's plenty of eggs to fertilize. All the males have to do is be there at the right time to fertilize them with their sperm. It's not the most exciting reproduction technique, but it's a very common one among marine invertebrates. The massive number of eggs accounts for the incredibly small chance of any of them making it to adulthood. The tides were unfortunately very high last night and kicked up some of the eggs that the females had laid. But that does give me an opportunity to show you exactly what they look like. This right here is an egg cluster. These are actually fertilized eggs. When I look close enough, I can see that there's little individuals moving around inside these beautiful little capsules. Horseshoe crab embryos actually have 3 molt phases within the egg. On the 4th molt phase, they hatch, and that can take a minimum of 14 days, up to a month, depending on temperatures. Baby horseshoe crabs are actually born looking very much like their adult selves, except they don't really have much of a telson. That's something that grows as they molt. I'm gonna do my best and see if I can give these guys a fighting chance by burying this egg cluster once again.
It's a surprisingly normal mating ritual for a really extraordinary creature. Their body is made up of strange and wonderful adaptations that seem more apt for a Cambrian wildlife. It's like these guys have been living under a rock or something.
So not all horseshoe crabs that make it up onto the beach to mate manage to get back into the ocean. This one here is an unfortunate fallen soldier, so we're going to take this opportunity to take a little look at his anatomy and learn what we can up close. As you can see, they've got 6 pairs of limbs. The first pair of limbs here are called the chelicerae, and this is exactly the feature that places them in Chelicerata, their subphylum. That makes them sister group to arachnids like scorpions and spiders, but they're also quite closely related to the extinct sea scorpions. Their second pair is very special because it's sexually dimorphic. For the females, they just look like little pincers like the rest of their walking feet, but males have what I call a little boxing glove, and he uses these to hook onto the female's shell and go for a ride up onto the beach. So after this second pair of limbs, they've got 3 pairs of general walking limbs that they use for just scuttling around the ocean floor. And then at the back is their special pushers. They've got extra little fingers and limbs that help them to push themselves along the ground and propel themselves forward. The head shield here that you see is called the prosoma. The midsection of the body is the opistosoma, and this spike-like tail is the telson. Past this hellish-looking maw is its mouth. All of these little toothy bits that you see here are called gnathobases. Don't stick your finger in there. The gonads of the animal are right here under the operculum in a little opening. So that's where they store their eggs and their sperm until it's time to set that all free. So under their opistosoma, so their midsection of their body, they have what's called book gills. And they actually look like little books because it's a bunch of stacks of little pages called lamellae that they use for gas exchange in the water. They're also used for swimming upside down. Pretty cool trick if you ask me. Now their book gills are so effective at absorbing oxygen from the air and water that they can actually survive out of the water for up to 4 days if they retain enough moisture.
All those legs and a chemoreceptor organ at the bottom of the shell help them find prey in the bottom of the ocean. If it lives and breathes and is smaller than a horseshoe crab, it'll get eaten by these shields with mouths. Horseshoe crabs don't have jaws, so they prefer to go for soft prey, such as worms and mollusks. When they do have to break a shell, they have to crush it with their arms before putting it in their mouths. Then, their crushed up prey gets transported here, to the center of their body, and gets slurped up into the horseshoe crab's abdomen. Yep, their mouths are in the middle of their body. It's really weird. Here in Delaware, clamworms and a variety of bivalves such as blue mussels and surf clams are some of the most abundant food available. In the murky Atlantic and under their own shields, it's pretty dark. To hunt, they have to sift through the sand almost blindly. All they have to navigate are 2 ventral eyes near their mouth and a poorly understood chemoreception system. It doesn't seem like an efficient strategy, but the fact that there are so many horseshoe crabs is proof that whatever they're doing is working. Part of their success is in part due to their advanced visual system.
Now, when I say that they're visual animals, I mean it. They have eyes and photoreceptors all over their body. On their tails, their heads, even their bellies. Oh, This guy's after my shoe. Hey, buddy. Oh. He's crawling over my feet. I can feel his legs grasping onto my foot. I love them so much. Honestly, I can't express it enough.
This part of the Atlantic is full of sharks, like sand tiger sharks, dusky sharks, and even great whites. They're also prey to reptiles, like loggerhead turtles, gators, and American crocodiles. And a little further south, off the Florida coast, they're even eaten by the terrifying horse conch. To escape their predators, they have photoreceptors along their shell and tails in small clusters that function as rudimentary eyes. It's dangerous to be a horseshoe crab, so being able to spot a predator is crucial. They might not be able to make out detailed images like animals with bigger eyes do, but they do have enough vision to detect motion and changes in light. Most of their photoreceptors are on compound eyes on top of the shield. There's also smaller eyes at the front and the sides, and the tail is sprinkled with tiny little eyes too. You cannot sneak up on these guys.
On land, they like to be belly down, but when they're swimming in the ocean, they swim upside down. So having something to sense light from all sides of their body does benefit them.
It's much easier for horseshoe crabs to stay afloat while upside down. Also, because of the direction of their biggest eye clusters, being upside down helps them look forward, as opposed to upwards if they swim with their shields up. On land, they never want to be upside down, but the ocean is a cruel mistress, and sometimes they get turned over on the tide. That's where their tail comes in.
This horseshoe crab behind me is struggling in the surf. He's trying to right himself. And the way that they do that is using their telson, or tail, as a lever to push themselves and turn themselves over. Well, it might look a bit like a sword or a bayonet, something that they'd use in self-defense, but it's quite the opposite. Wow. While I wasn't even watching, he was flipping himself behind me, and now he's back into the water. Good job, buddy. Takes a lot of energy to get up onto land, and some of them get too tired to try and return back into the water. Like this guy here seems just about out of energy. Doesn't even seem to have the strength to flex his telson and flip himself over. So I'm gonna help a buddy out. You can grab them quite safely from the side of their shells, and just like so, help him out. Off you go, little buddy. Aw, he's gonna make his way back into the ocean, and maybe stand a fighting chance to swim another day.
Volunteers, tourists, and locals have learned to love the horseshoe crabs and happily help them flip over when they get stuck. This has even become a bit of a pastime for locals, who compete to see how many they can flip back over in a single day.
This morning, this beach was covered in the horseshoe crab egg clusters, but they all seem to have disappeared. I'll give you one hint. These bird footprints.
Red knots are sturdy little birds from the sandpiper family. They spend their winters in Patagonia, but fly up to the Canadian Arctic to breed in the summer. During their 15,000-kilometer trip, they stop here in the Delaware Bay to rest for a few days and put on some weight by munching on horseshoe crab eggs. Without these scheduled rest stops, they're unable to complete their journey. They're far from being the only species reliant on horseshoe crab eggs. Up to 1 million shorebirds stop here during their migrations in search of nutritious horseshoe crab eggs. Striped bass and white perch come to the Delaware River looking for the same thing. And even true crabs snack on their namesake's eggs.
Another amazing thing about horseshoe crabs is that their bodies are often ecosystems unto themselves. Look at the whole little community that lives on this shell. I can see sea snails of different kinds and a few different kinds of mollusks. From the algae to the mollusks to the worms that call their bodies home. These guys carry with them the whole town.
Horseshoe crabs who don't make it are still useful to their ecosystem. Their shells provide shelter for dozens of small species. They truly are the most important animal in their ecosystem.
Ooh, we're getting to see an awesome example of a horseshoe crab trackway. Now, these trackways are extremely distinct, mostly because of the shape of their final pair of limbs, called the pushers. Now, they have such a specific morphology that we can see these trackways in the fossil record and know exactly what kind of animal made them, which is part of why we have such a rich and deep history of the evolution of limulids. Can you tell I'm excited about these things? 'Cause I am. Look at them use those little pushers. Oh, yeah. I think their back pair of limbs are actually extremely adorable. They look like tiny hands, actually. And I use them like them, too. And you know what? If you don't think they're as cute as I think they are, you should still say thank you to the horseshoe crabs. We have so much to thank them for. They're honestly marvels of modern medicine. And if you've ever been to a hospital or needed any kind of medical surgery or procedure whatsoever, then a horseshoe crab has probably helped you too.
Every drug approved by the FDA has to be checked for bacterial contaminants. Animal immune systems are pretty good at detecting endotoxins in the outer layer of some bacteria, so animal blood has been used to test drugs. From the 40s to the 70s, rabbit blood was used, but since then, horseshoe crab blood has been the test of choice. Horseshoe crab blood has a very strong reaction to endotoxins. If it detects endotoxins, it quickly clots to prevent them from spreading into the horseshoe crab's body. So, to test if drugs have potentially dangerous bacteria, scientists use a compound from horseshoe crab blood. If the drug turns into a jelly, it means that it's infected with bacteria. Horseshoe crab blood also goes into the testing of every vaccine delivered across the country. So if you've got your COVID-19 shots, you've got these guys to thank. These tests save thousands of human lives every year, but unfortunately take a toll on horseshoe crab populations. Their amazingly blue blood, which looks like Star Wars milk due to a copper-based pigment, is extremely important in keeping people healthy by having safe medicine. But to perform all of the necessary tests, around 500,000 horseshoe crabs are drained of a third of their blood every year. This is tough on the horseshoe crabs, and up to 150,000 yearly don't make it. But thankfully, they reproduce quickly and can make up the numbers under the right conditions. Their biggest threat is habitat destruction, which is why a lot of conservation focus is on the preservation of their spawning grounds rather than their use in the biomedical industry. Swaths and parts of the Delaware Bay are protected, or in the process of becoming protected. So horseshoe crabs still have a place to mate, and migrating birds have a place to fuel up on their journeys.
Strange things happen under a full moon. It's the cusp of summer and the tides are at their highest. Tonight, hundreds of thousands of primordial, perfect creatures will rise from the deep and perform an ancient ritual. It's horseshoe crab time. Scattered all along this beach are horseshoe crabs. When the tides are high and it's the first full moon of summer, that's when you're going to find the highest concentration of horseshoe crabs in the world. And we're here tonight. Let the ritual begin. There are so many coming up onto the beach right now. I think we got here just in time. The party is officially started. The life history of horseshoe crabs is surprisingly complex for invertebrates. After hatching from their eggs, they'll molt about 13 to 15 times until they reach sexual maturity at 9 to 11 years old. In fact, these animals can live to about 20 years. All of these around me, I would guess that these ones are sexually mature considering they're trying to mate on a beach. So don't worry, these spring breakers are totally legal. One of the theories for their success is that they're such highly adaptable creatures that they've had to change so little. They're capable of dealing with different environmental pressures and feeding upon a vast variety of different nutrients. Success has just kind of been easy when you're that adaptable. So why change a thing that works? Some people refer to them as living fossils, but a new term has been coined, which is stabilomorph, which really just means stable shape. And it doesn't really mean that your genes don't keep adapting and changing and evolving. It just means that the shape is still working, so why change it? You guys want to see a really awesome conga line? There's one big female at the front here, and she is just pulling all of these males along with her. So it turns out the males don't just use those clasping claws for holding on to females, they also use it to hold on to each other. So you can begin to understand why the females need to be a lot bigger than the males. They have to pull their own weight and the weight of all of her suitors. This is technically one of the largest orgies in the world, so which are you, little guys? He's on my foot! It tickles! Oh my god! These guys are totally harmless. Even if they do climb onto your foot, even if they do explore how you're shaped and everything with all of their little feely limbs, there's absolutely no harm that can come to you. I think we're joining the horseshoe crab frenzy right now. Another really interesting feature that seems to unite most of Chelicerata is that their cuticles can fluoresce.
You probably know that a lot of scorpions and spiders will light up under UV fluorescent lights. But it's also recently been found that sea scorpion fossils also light up under UV light. So whatever compounds are actually built into their exoskeleton, they seem to get preserved and stay within the fossil record for hundreds of millions of years.
So that creates a pretty interesting question. If the two sister groups to these animals are fluorescing under UV light, will these guys fluoresce under UV light? Well, I'm here to answer that question. Let's find out. I bought myself a very simple, rudimentary UV light from the hardware store, and I'm gonna see if these guys light up under its light. You ready for this? Let's test it on this beautiful mating group over here. Oh wow. Oh yeah, they're glowing green. In fact, the younger ones have a thinner cuticle than the old ones, so they end up glowing a lot brighter under UV light. As you can see, this little guy here, he's almost neon green under this light. Whereas this older one over here seems to be a little bit darker. So maybe that signals some kind of advantage to those that glow brighter. Or maybe it's the other way around. To be honest, we don't know the answer yet. But I think it's a really interesting question that I would love to see some biologists try and tackle. Considering horseshoe crabs are such visual animals, with all kinds of photoreceptors and hidden eyes all over their bodies, I would not be surprised if they were able to perceive UV light through this fluorescence that they emit. I'm sure to them it means something entirely that we, as humans, just don't understand. Hey, horseshoe crabs, tell me your secrets. Oh no. This female, she's a little bit stuck on her butt here, with her telson sticking straight up. I'm just gonna let her have my finger. She's trying to hold on, but there's no amount of pressure. There's no force behind it. She's just curious. She's manipulating my finger, and that's it. However, I feel compelled to give her a hand because there's a lot of horseshoe crabs that end up stranded on these beaches and never make it back into the ocean. So I'm going to give her a little bit of help so I can just pick her up by the rim of her prosoma, or head shield, and just tip her over.
Flipping them over doesn't hurt them because their shell is their body. They're basically walking helmets.
There she goes. Now she's opening up. Look at those legs. She's amazing. All right, well, let's put her down nice and safe. Make sure that she's heading back into the water. She sure can move. she's gonna go and rejoin the rest of her kind so she can live to breed another day. Got another buddy here who seems to need a little bit of help. Oh, he's doing a big sit-up, lifting that Telson straight up. He's reaching for it. Come on, buddy, you can do it. Oh, he's trying so hard. But maybe I should give him a hand. Hold on tight, bud. Can you hold on? Oh, wow. They're quite gentle. Come on, buddy. Hold on tight. All right. So he's holding on to my hand, and I'm going to help him by just tipping him forward. There we go, bud. You got this. Let's go. Oh, we did it. Yeah. Good little horseshoe crab. See, in this case, I didn't even need to tip him myself. I just gave him my hand so that he could pull himself up a little bit with his little claws. That honestly did feel kind of special, just helping one of these creatures get back to its regular face-down self on the ground. There really is something so gentle about their interaction. I'm feeling a lot of feelings for these limulids, you know? Like, I am a type 1 diabetic. I rely heavily on modern medicine. I've been needing to use needles and blood tests and all kinds of sterile medical equipment my whole life. Since far before I was born, we have been relying on horseshoe crab blood to make sure that all of this medical equipment that we use these days is totally sterile. So I feel like I have so much to give back to these creatures. Every time I see one flipped onto its back, I just want to help it to live another day, as they continue to help me live day after day after day. Thanks, little guys.
The horseshoe crab mating season is one of the most amazing natural events in the world. If you have the chance, come to the East Coast and see them for yourself. Flip some over if they're stuck, and support conservation initiatives. If you've ever needed intravenous medicine, horseshoe crabs were likely used to make sure that it was safe. So return the favor and help us protect these amazing, anachronistic walking helmets.
So what should we talk about next? Please let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for new episodes every week. Thanks for watching. Bye!